We have to understand in these days and times that our health care, that our very lives are at stake in terms of whether we go to the polls or whether we stay at home. It's important for us to understand that as we look at the rise in gun violence, that gun reform is a political issue, it's a ballot issue. We have to understand that health care, women's health care, and all of our health care is at stake in this upcoming election. And so, for those and myriad other reasons, I am very pleased that Omega Psi Phi and the NAACP are working together in Jacksonville to make sure that everyone gets out to vote. I have to think, as I think about Jacksonville, of Lloyd Pearson, who was a great motivator, a great registrar of voters in that city. And so, in his memory, I challenge you to take to heart what each of the panelists will say this evening, and then commit yourselves to go out and work to ensure that every citizen of Jacksonville, Duval County gets out and votes. Our lives depend on it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Um, I don't see him, but I still want to acknowledge my president of the Jacksonville branch NAACP, President Isaiah Rumlin. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the Bachelors of the local chapter president of Theta Phi, Bachelors Jason A. Hartwick, for a few words.
Greetings, greetings. I won't be before you long. I just want to take a quick second to acknowledge a few of the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated that are here with us this evening. From Charlotte, North Carolina, we have our co-chair, Brother Perry Caudill of our International Social Action Committee. We also have my good brother and friend, Mitchell Kevin Woodall, who serves as our district keeper of records and seal. And I also want to recognize my right-hand man, who many, if not all of you, probably know, Octavius Holliday, who serves as our local vice president or vice bosses. On behalf of the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, we sincerely appreciate each of you taking this matter seriously. Voter registration is a serious matter. We thank you for taking the time out this afternoon and coming out and sharing with us. And I also personally thank each of you on the panel for taking the time to come out this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Bishop McKissick was not able to be here this evening to lead us in prayer, but I'm going to ask Elder Dolores Beeman to lead us in the invocation this evening.
On behalf of Bishop Rudolph McKissick Jr. and our executive pastor, Pastor Kim, I want to welcome you all as we pray. Let us bow. Father God, we thank you today. We thank you for life, health, and strength. God, we thank you for the event that is taking place right now, God, because you know what's going on in our country. You know what we need, God. So, Lord, I'm asking right now that the information that is going to be presented tonight, let it resonate with the listeners. Let it penetrate their hearts, God. I ask that you bless every panelist, everyone that's sitting out in the audience today. And Lord, I just ask right now that you open our eyes and open our hearts to the issues that's going on, and let us not just be standbyers and people just looking and waiting on somebody else to do it, because we are that somebody else, God. Help us to get on in line and get on board with what you're doing in this hour and what we need to have in order to move forward. Lord, this prayer I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder. In the spirit of partnership, I'm going to ask for my co-host to come and take the podium at this point in time to help with the programming. He's Omega brother. His name is Lee Brown. Welcome him as he comes.
Thank you, Brother Morton. Can you guys hear me, or do I have to lean into the mic? Good evening, everybody. Before we dive into tonight's discussion, I want to address a few housekeeping matters. We are live streaming on Facebook, so if you all would not mind, please go to the Bethel Church and share it on your social media outlets. Secondly, to ensure an uninterrupted flow of the important messages that we're here to share, we kindly request that if you're anticipating needing to move in and out during the event, that you kindly consider sitting on the outskirts of the room. If time allows, we'll gladly address a few questions from the audience. There are volunteers from the NAACP local branch in the room that have cards on them. If you have a question, please grab a card, fill the question out, and then we will try to get to it. If we do not get to it, please drop the card off outside in the lobby. We have volunteers there as well, and we will make sure we get all those questions answered. Thank you for your cooperation, and let's make tonight's event as impactful and seamless as possible. To start us off, we have our Supervisor of Elections for Duval County. He assumed office on July 1st, 2023. His current term expires on June 30th, 2027. Introducing to some and presenting to others, Jerry Holland, our Supervisor of Election. Mr. Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. As Tracy knows, she used to be my Deputy Supervisor of Elections a few years ago. I really have a passion for elections, and part of the passion is seeing people involved, seeing students get registered to vote, seeing people go to the polls, and expanding our election opportunities as much as possible, early voting and vote by mail opportunities. So today, I hope to have the opportunity to share more with you what we're doing in the office, to answer your questions, how we're keeping elections secure, how we're making sure that your vote counts and how you know that it will count. So all those things are so important, and I'm blessed to have a wonderful staff, and as well as just a permanent staff, about 35. But when it comes to elections, we hire about 1,300 to 1,400 to make it possible. And seeing the community come together to help us do that is a wonderful blessing. So thank you for the opportunity to be today, and I hope to share more with you.
Thank you, Supervisor Holland. The next person I'd like to introduce is Monet Holder. Monet is the Senior Director of Advocacy and Programs at Florida Rising. Monet has led the organization in the fight for voting rights on the local, state, and national levels, and developed strategies to build Black political power in the state. She is going to give us some information and proactive steps for voting. Ms. Holder, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here and sit alongside women that I admire, and Mr. Holland, the way that you administer elections is admirable. So I'm here to share from a grassroots perspective some of the ways that folks can get involved during this electoral cycle and beyond, and some of the ways that we can advocate outside of just the election cycle for access to the ballot box. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we close out Women's History Month, it's an honor to introduce two remarkable leaders who have tirelessly served our community. Leader-elect Senator Tracy Davis and Florida State Representative Angie Nixon. Leader-elect Senator Tracy Davis is a force to be reckoned with, serving on key committees such as Transportation, which she is the Vice Chair, Appropriations, Health Policy, and more. Her dedication to improving transportation infrastructure, education, and health services has been unwavering, even during the challenging times faced in Tallahassee this session. Representative Angie Nixon is another trailblazer with committee assignments introducing infrastructure strategies, transportations and models, and regulatory reform and economic development. Despite the hurdles encountered, she has remained steadfast in her commitment to advocating for our community's needs. We extend our deepest gratitude to these extraordinary women for their selfless service and unwavering dedication to representing us in Tallahassee. It takes immense courage and sacrifice to stand up and run for office, and we applaud them for answering the call to serve. Tonight, we have the privilege of hearing from both Leader-elect Senator Tracy Davis and Representative Angie Nixon as they provide us with a legislative debrief. Together, they will tag team their messaging, sharing insights and updates on the challenges and triumphs of this legislative session. Let's give a round of applause to these local heroes who continue to inspire us with their leadership, resilience, and unwavering commitment to making a difference in our community. Okay, Supervisor Holland, we're going to move back to you and allow you time to do your presentation, and then we'll go back through the roster in the same order.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let me start off with a couple things. One is the priorities of our office. One of our priorities is to try to get as many people to vote prior to Election Day. You know, I tell people all the time, if you wait till Election Day, you don't know what may come up. You know, it may be bad weather, car may break down, someone may be sick in the family. So encourage, you know, your friends and relatives and everything, vote prior to Election Day. We've expanded early voting. When I came into office in July, there was 19 early voting sites. We now have 24. And so we want, you know, to have more of an opportunity that you have early voting sites to go to. And then what we've got to do is, you know, I look back at 2020, there was over 120,000 people signed up for vote by mail ballots. Today, as I look at the numbers, only 55,000 have signed up for vote by mail ballots. And I will tell you, the confidence that I have in vote by mail ballots is at the highest, because I will tell you, we can track the ballot, the entire process. We can let you know that your ballot's been counted. If for any reason your signature doesn't match, we notify you because you give us your email or your telephone number so you can come in and rectify it. So it's a very secure way, especially when people are homebound or maybe not have the opportunity or maybe traveling and not get to an early voting site. So those are things that are very important to me to make sure that you really try to get there before Election Day. The other thing also is, as I mentioned earlier, is about the security of elections. You hear so much, especially on the internet and on media, you know, are your machines secure? Well, first of all, I've got to thank our city council, and I know Councilman Rockman Johnson is in the audience. I want to thank him because they appropriated over $2.6 million to purchase all new voting equipment. So we have the latest technology in our office, and you hear things, oh, it's connected to the internet. No, your tabulators are not connected to the internet. You know, our voter registration, where you check in, the EVIDs are, but that's so that we have the security of knowing when you go vote that, or anyone goes to vote, that we already know at the other locations that you voted. So it keeps people from even from error of going in the second time of attempting to vote. It keeps that data live. Having the latest equipment, having a city council that supports us having the latest equipment. We've also, on early voting, in fact, it just was introduced. We did not have ballot on demand, which is a printing system to give you an option whether you wanted to vote the express vote or vote by, you know, with a marked scan ballot. We will have the ballot on demand printers in August and November, you know, and it's not far off. You know, 145 days, you will have the August election. And I want to encourage people, a lot of people, you know, we have great turnouts when it comes to presidential election. We usually have 75 to 80% turnout. But in that primary, you know, it drops off to low 20%. And these two ladies will let you know that is a very important election. Sometimes they are challenged in the primary, you know, so that's where a lot of times you will make a decision on who's going to run against someone in the general election. School board races will be in August. Judicial races for county court and circuit court will be in August. So just in 145 days, on August 20th will be our next election. Please turn out for that, as well as obviously our presidential. That I usually don't have to encourage people to turn out. Everybody comes out for the presidential. But as even mentioned, and as James even mentioned, what's so important is our local and state elections. You know, there's so much, and these ladies will tell you how much Tallahassee impacts you. The councilman will tell you how much they impact you, you know, on a local level. And obviously on our school board level, how much it impacts our local. So important, take advantage of every election. We've been very blessed in many ways to have a lot of Democratic support when it comes to poll workers, you know, and I want to continue that. But, you know, I'm also out there recruiting to have as many of both parties in our precincts. See, my side is to make sure we're very transparent, you know, because it can never be something where your supervisor of elections or election officials don't tell you what's going on. It can't be something done in a back room. Everything we do is open to the public. Everything we do, we want both parties there. We want them engaged, whether it be at the precinct or early voting. We want everyone there so everyone can see what's going on. And so I encourage you, as we do testing of our equipment and the logic and accuracy tests, you know, come see that prospect. As we do canvassing, you know, come watch us. One thing we do also constantly is we give tours of our election center. It's out there at Imison. It's where we store the equipment, where we train our poll workers, where our call center is. And a lot of times we've had, just to give you an idea, we've had over 80 countries come and visit Duval County to see how we do elections, you know. And that's remarkable when you consider, if you see the map, where they all come from all over the world. So we're very proud of what we've got there in Duval County and really invite people to come see it, because it is your election office. As these ladies will tell you, we're open. They have both been in our office many times. They know we'll sit down with any constituent, any voter, any question that you ever have. I share one story because I think it's important. You know, I'll never forget my first primary. In fact, Senator was on staff at that time. My very first primary, I had after the election was over, I had the wife of a candidate call me. And she said, Jerry, she said, I think there was fraud in this election. And I said, oh, wow, my first election. I'll never have another election. And I knew from the race, her husband had lost by almost 30%. And she was convinced. She said, I have proof that he won. And, you know, I'm going to sit down with anyone. And I said, yes, you've got proof? Oh, yes, I've got proof. And I said, well, can you show me the proof? She said, I'll tell you what the proof is right now. I said, well, what's the proof? She says, everyone I talk to says they voted for my husband. I wanted to do that. I wanted to kind of chuckle, but I knew she was serious, you know? And I said, I tell you what, why don't you come in and sit down? And at that point, before we got on the e-vids that checked you in, we had paper registers. And so we pulled the registers for the precincts her husband was running in. And when she came in, I said, I want you to give me 10 names who voted for your husband. And she said, you can tell me how they voted? I said, no, but just bear with me. This was a primary. I knew it was a low turnout. She gave me 10 names and we looked them up. And of the 10 names, only 2 had voted. We did another 10, and about 20% of what she told me, of 40, actually voted, about 8 people. And she said, you know what? She said, I would have gone to my grave believing that he had won that election. But you took the time and you showed me that, no, those people didn't tell me the truth. I said, ma'am, if they had voted for your husband, he might have won. I said, but as you can see, turnout matters. And as you see, the other side is, it's important to sit down. No election official should ever turn away from any question or answering anything in our office. And that's what we always try to do. If you're concerned about the elections, if you're concerned about a race, if you're concerned about your vote, sit down with us. We will spend the time, no matter, you know, if we think, you know, wow, this is going to be a tough one. But obviously, if you go through the process with people, they appreciate it, they understand it, and they really appreciate the empathy we have. And I will tell you, as a candidate, I've been fortunate. I am now the longest continuously serving elected official in Duval County of either party. Woo. I don't know if that just means I'm old or lucky, or both. But I have served now 25 years. I've run in 9 elections, won 8 of them. 3 of them was unopposed, which is, these ladies know, is the best election you can have is when you're unopposed. You know, that's amen, right? But all that being said is, you know, I know what a candidate when they come in the office. You know, candidates always say, and the senator remembers this, is they'd always say, well, y'all treat us so special. I treat everyone who comes in that door special. Because there's a big sign as you come in my foyer. And the two most important things is our voters and our candidates. Without those, we don't exist. We don't have a purpose. That's our purpose. And my staff knows we're fortunate that we have voters and fortunate we have people like these two that volunteer to run for office and put themselves out. So that's what our office is there. It's your office. Please take the time. Come see us, come visit us, come tour. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Holland. Ms. Holder?
Thank you. So I think we've all heard the phrase, make a plan to vote. And quite frankly, that is what we have to do. There are a lot of dates and deadlines and new laws and restrictions and guidelines to follow as it relates to voting. So I'm going to start with just reiterating some dates that Supervisor Holland mentioned and a few others for you to jot down and hopefully share with your friends and family when you leave here. So we talked about the primary, August primary. That's actually on August 20th, 2024. And there's two deadlines that surround that date. First, there's the deadline to register to vote, which is July 22nd, 2024. And that's important because if you're not registered to vote, then you can't vote. What people can do now leading up to that deadline is definitely check their registration status. They can update their voter registration information. So if you've moved, if you think your signature may have changed, now is the opportunity to do that up until the deadline because you have 29 days before an election to register in order for you to cast your ballot in that upcoming election. Similarly, if you want to vote by mail, so this, if you're going to be out of town, you may be a senior that's at a different place from your home, a student, there is a deadline to request a vote by mail ballot, which is August 8th if you want to vote in the August 20th primary election. And then it's the big day. Is the general election, which will be on November 5th, 2024 this year. And those deadlines to register to vote is October 7th. And if you want to request a vote by mail ballot, it's October 24th, 2024. Now, as it relates to vote by mail, there have been a lot of changes to elections in these past couple of years, one of which is around vote by mail. Previously, you could request a vote by mail ballot and know that you would receive one in the mail for the next, couple of elections. But now the new Florida law requires that you request a vote by mail ballot after every election cycle. So if you did it before, you need to do it again because they don't have you signed up as receiving one. Oftentimes we think we're getting something in the mail, we procrastinate, we don't request it, we say we don't need to make a plan to get out to the polls because we got a ballot coming, and then election day, and you don't have a plan. So I think that's important to mention here, and as you share out information and as folks are listening on the live stream to know, request a vote by mail ballot again if that's how you want to vote. As it relates to vote by mail, even if you request one and you decide, hey, I actually want to go into a precinct location, I've done that before, you can still do that. You can take your ballot with you, turn it in, and vote a regular ballot. If for some reason you don't have your vote by mail ballot and you still want to, and they can verify that your vote by mail has not been casted, you can vote on election day. And to be clear, election day and early voting precinct locations can differ. So we always, always, always encourage folks to go to your Supervisor of Elections website to find out, number one, where your early voting locations are near you. You can go to any one. And to also find out where your precinct day location is. It could have been one place a couple of elections ago and it has changed. So just always, always check that information. I also want to reiterate that you need to have a valid Florida ID or driver's license. There are about, and Supervisor Holland can keep me keep me honest, about 19 or 20 different forms of identification that you can use. But one thing, 12, excuse me. That's what I said, keep me honest, right? But one thing that I like to mention always is for people who may be unhoused or you may have lost your voter ID or your driver's license or your Florida ID, there are resources in the state. There's a partner organization called Vote Riders, and their telephone number is actually 1-866-ID2-VOTE, and they assist you with the process and even help cover your fees if you need to get a replacement or just a brand new Florida driver's license or ID. Sure, 1-866-ID2-VOTE, and the actual numbers are 1-866-432-7233. 8683. One thing I also want to mention, a lot of folks are sometimes wary or cautious as it relates to vote by mail. All counties in Florida offer a ballot tracking tool on their website. So once you complete your vote by mail ballot, make sure you sign it and turn it in. You actually have the opportunity to track your ballot to make sure that it's received. And you can always reach out to your supervisor of elections office if you have any questions or you think there's any discrepancy with your ballot. There has been a lot of questions and I'll say some controversy as it relates to returning citizens being eligible to vote. So we know back in 2018 we had Amendment 4 on the ballot, and about 1.5 million people had their right to vote restored that had previous felony convictions, and then the legislature, no shade, um, passed some legislation the following year requiring that fines and fees be paid in order for you to actually cast your ballot. And we've seen instances in which some people thought they could vote and they could not, were unclear, registered, and then some people even got rearrested for allegedly falsifying their voting record. So we just encourage people that if you have had a past felony conviction and you're unsure, the supervisor of elections office actually has different steps that you can take to verify that your fines and fees were paid through the clerk of courts. But there's also a partner organization of ours, the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, who can help you walk you through that process of verifying your voter status if you're a returning citizen. And they have also helped many people settle their fines and fees so they can actually be eligible to vote. A number that they give for you to call is 1-877-MY-VOTE-0. So that's 1-877-698-6830. One other thing I'll touch on before I hand it over is, and we talked about what's on the ballot this year a little bit, so we know you have like top of the ticket, President of the United States, you have U.S. Senators, you have U.S. State Reps, State Senators for District 5, State Reps Districts 12 through 17, Clerk of Courts and County Courts, you have a few school board districts, soil and water conservation, circuit court judges, county court judges, and then you also have constitutional amendments, which is extremely important. The legislature actually referred 4 constitutional amendments to the 2024 ballot, and there are 2 initiatives that maybe many of you had signed petitions for that were citizen-led initiatives to be on the ballot for 2024. And that effort took a lot of work. Close to 900,000 signatures are required for a citizen initiative to get on the ballot. One that Florida Rising worked on was the right for a woman to choose or have the choice to have an abortion. Another one that you may see is one around recreational marijuana. How that process works is even when you get the close to 1 million signatures for it to qualify, the Supreme Court in Florida then has to review that language to deem it constitutional before you'll see it on the ballot. They have a deadline of April 1st. So as I was sitting here, I was checking my phone because those decisions can come down at any minute. And they actually launched an advisory that said we will know on April 1st whether marijuana and the right to have an abortion will be on the ballot in 2024. So those are some other things that you need to look for when you're casting your ballot. So that's why we encourage people to vote up and down the ballot. Lastly, I'll say do your research, right? Whether it's candidates, whether it's constitutional amendments or any other initiatives, it's up to you to figure out what people stand for, what the initiative does, not just for you and your community before you cast the ballot, because not voting is an automatic no vote. One thing at Florida Rising that we offer for folks is not only to help engage with voter registration efforts year-round, help advocate on a local, state, and federal level, but also we have a PAC in which we endorse candidates for office and run what we call an independent expenditure program. So we run field, phones, doors, mail in support of candidates that our endorsement committee decides will be best champions for communities like ours, Black and brown communities. So you have opportunities to volunteer with us if we endorse the candidate that you like to help get them elected. And we do that work independent of those candidates and independent of any political party. We're simply about the issues and what's best for our community. So if you want to know more information about Florida Rising, you can go to our website at floridarising.org and also find out some key dates and activities that are going on, not just in Jacksonville, but across the state.
Thank you. Leader-elect Senator Davis.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? You've gotten a ton of information. I am Senator Tracy Davis. I have a ton of stuff across the desk, but I want to say hello to Divine Nine, and I want everyone that's a part of the Divine Nine to stand up and be recognized. Divine Nine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wanted to see the audience. We do have a woman here with us that's a part of Women's Month history. March is Women's Month, and so I do want to recognize our very own elected property appraiser, Ms. Joyce Morgan. So you all have, thank you to Supervisor Jerry Holland, who has been that accountable, transparent supervisor that we really, really want and need in this county. And so thank you for being that for us tonight. Thank you to Monet Holder for all of that information. And I just want to say, while you were talking, the message came in, and Monet's thought about elected office, but I'm going to put her on the spot. And so the message was, wow, she needs to be in elected office. So I just wanted you to know that. My counterpart, my ride or die, my partner when it gets hard, Representative Angie Nixon. It is so great to be in Tallahassee and have someone that is willing to stand up, take the shots, while the partner is able to navigate a different way. We both have our lanes in Tallahassee, and we're both able to get what we need accomplished for the county of Jacksonville. There was a lot going on in Tallahassee. I don't know how much you all want to hear about the bills. We're not going to run down them. There were 1,700 bills filed, and that is probably a very low number before the session started. 1,700 bills that were filed by individuals. There is 120 representatives in the Florida House, and there are 40 state senators. So the conversations that we usually have in Tallahassee sometimes, and if you ever watch us on Florida Channel, in the Senate, it's very calm. So much so until we look like we're really not doing anything. There's an older group, so we call ourselves the upper chamber, and then you watch the Florida House and you see 120 members, and they're moving about and they're causing issues, and it just always look like they're doing a whole lot, but that's how we get things done. There's a partner. You have to have a partner in this process to get things done. You don't get any appropriations through if there's not a partnership between the House and the Senate. You don't get any legislation through or passed if there's not that partnership. So it's definitely a partnership in what we do in Tallahassee. And like I said, I've been watching the news. You all have been watching the news. And there have just been things that have been passed, and the governor's signing bills. He'll continue to get bills probably until July 1. Most he will sign, some he will not. And July 1, if the bill passed both chambers and he did not sign it, it still becomes a law. So there's some things you probably have seen, like the encampment, and now people cannot sleep on public property. It gives the county, the time to make sure wherever they find this encampment, because now people can't sleep on public property, they have to create these encampments, and they have to provide security, and they have to provide water and things like that. But that bill has been signed into law by the governor, but that's what we call an unfunded mandate, because it's something that we did not vote for, but it was something that now the county have been imposed on the counties, And it does come with a $10 million price tag with it, but that's not enough for 67 counties to do what this bill is asking them to do, or really mandating them to do. And so it's an unfunded mandate for us. There are other things that was put in play, or the governor has the ability to sign something with HIV preventions. It allows pharmacists now to prescribe and dispense of medication. I'm just going to run through a few things that I have jotted down. We do have a bill that is on the governor's desk. It's going to make whistleblowers, it's going to kind of uncover them, and it'll make it harder to file ethics complaints also on elected officials. I jotted this one down because I personally have been someone who has had ethics complaints filed on them. And so when you have to go before the ethics board to defend yourself, you'll find people on both sides of this argument. Yes, you're an elected official. You should be subject to being held at a higher regard, and we are. But when you have an ethics complaint filed on you, and you have to take time to defend that, and at the end of the day, you're in front of 4 judges, and they say, okay, well, just, we dismiss this. I mean, that's time, effort, and it's a part of your brand, who you are, and it affects you. So it has nothing to do with frivolous complaints. It's just the fact that now it's just harder, and you actually have to have evidence, and you cannot do that in an anonymous manner. So again, people will fall on both sides of that. I don't know if you want to jump in here at any point, Representative Nixon. We still have the book banning going on. We did things like a halo, we call it the halo bill, where now the governor has something on his desk where it says that people have to stand. You all remember George Floyd and the videoing that people were doing. Well, now there's a bill on the governor's desk that says we have to stand 25 feet away from any type of incident like that where the first responders are handling that. And so this is where we get into the House versus Senate type things, because the Senate sometimes will vote a different way than the House, and a lot of times we see things different, or the bill that's in front of us is different, or we're really just not speaking to our House counterparts like we really should be. There's also a bill in front of the governor, and this is probably the last one, and I'll try to make it more a good thing, because everything is not horrible, and I'll share some successes, and then I'll pass it over to Representative Nixon. We do have a bill that is on the governor's desk that will limit the Citizens Review Board. That has been a big topic here in Duval County, where we've tried to have those boards. We've never been successful, but now there are counties with the Citizens Review Boards. And so now we have a bill that limits those boards and the police oversight, as well as the sheriff being able to appoint the members of that board. So their power and their authority is really being restricted. So I can go on and on about the negative, but I'll share some positives. I'll share some things that for me, it's relationships, and it's about navigating the system. So last session, I was able to bring back, was able to bring back $78 million. And I know you've seen the UF campus is coming. 75 million of the 78 was the UF campus coming to Jacksonville. They did get another 75 million this session, and so it feels like, and the city is giving some, so it feels like they've gotten to the point to bring that campus here. The other campuses are thrilled to have UF moving in, so it's not something where people do not want UF to be here. We all do, and it's for graduate programming. It's just not singular for undergrad and graduate. This programming will only be for graduate programming. The other successes we had is, for years when I first got to the Florida House, I was a part of the Dozier, and I don't know if many of you have ever heard about the Dozier School and the Okeechobee schools. Those schools actually closed in 2011, and those were state-ran schools, and the challenge, the issues with those schools are the boys were subject to a lot of tragic events that happened to them while they were at the school. And so the boys were sent to this school for reasons for truancy, smoking in the back, running away, mild things that could have been solved a different way. But again, they were, and don't want to go into so many grotesque details, but they experienced horrors. And so when they come to talk to us, there's never a dry eye in the room as these men tell their stories. And we're talking about men that are now in their 70s and 80s. I tell you that story because in 2017, the legislature officially apologized to them. And this year, after many years, I think it was about 16 of them asking for some type of relief from the state of Florida, we put a pot of money for the Dozier men of $20 million so they can apply for a $50,000 gesture. Nothing can ever take away what they experienced, but to finally have someone like the state of Florida acknowledge the pain and the hurt and the tragedy that happened there, it was overwhelming for them, absolutely overwhelming. The last thing I'll tell you, and this is a personal win for me, we were able to secure their medical marijuana licenses. And do not let anyone tell you that Black people are part of the medical marijuana industry. We are not. For the last 2 sessions, we have people in our law that are called Pigford and Black farmers. They are in statute. So when you're talking medical marijuana, it says those people that are in our law are warranted 1 medical marijuana treatment center license, 1. About 7 years ago, there was an opening for these folks to apply. There were 12 applicants that applied as Pigford Black farmers, and 1 person was allotted the license. That gentleman passed away. Department of Health said, oh, sorry, you can't get the license, and went to number 2. Once they awarded number 2, the other applicants filed litigation. That they have been in that litigation for 7 years. Last session, we were able to open up a cure period to allow those people 90 days to cure the application, and if they cure the application, they will be awarded a medical marijuana treatment center license. From that, we had 3 people that were granted licenses. Remember, when I first started telling this story, there was only 1 in our statute. We gained 3. This session, we were able to secure in the Department of Health bill 3 more licenses. I get emotional about it because it's been a personal journey. One of the applicants is 101 years old. Her granddaughter lives in Jacksonville, and that's how I became a part of this journey. The other gentleman is 92 years old. So the way the application was, these people would never be able to show that they have been working consecutively for 5 years in the state of Florida upon submitting the application. It just would not happen due to age. So those 2 licenses are in the Department of Health bill, along with the gentleman who passed away. We could not keep opening the door. We could not keep going back and trying to get these licenses without including Moulton Hopkins. So the Department of Health bill includes 3 more licenses for this group called the Pigford Black Farmers. So for a total of 6 licenses, we were told from the beginning you would only be able to get 1. I tell you that story because it is a system of navigation. It is a system of having relationships, but it is a system of saying to yourself, I am doing the right thing, and you are not going to tell me this is not what we're going to do. I had to tell the partner that was working with me, we are going for all of these licenses or nobody will get anything. So we fight every day to bring stuff back to Jacksonville, but it is a different type of fight when you are in the minority party. I am one of 12 with 40 senators, and Representative Nixon is one of what, 30, 38? She was like, I don't know. we're in it's about 38 of the 120 that are Dems in the House. So on a good day, she says. So what I tell you that story to show you we can get things done as Democrats, but we have to navigate a system very carefully. And sometimes we both have our lanes. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you have to go to the extreme to get things done. Tallahassee is not an easy place to be, but I do have a partner with me, and that makes it so much better to make sure that when we're having a bad day in the House, I can have a good day in the Senate and vice versa. So a lot of things that are still sitting in front of me, but I won't take any more time because I'm going to let Rep. Nixon tell the story of the Florida House.
Thank you, Leader-elect Davis. Representative Nixon, you got it.
So, hi everyone, I'm Rep. Angie Nixon, House District 13, that encompasses Northwest Jacksonville, West Side, Riverside, Avondale. I am also the Executive Director of a statewide progressive organization and alignment group called Florida for All. Florida Rising is one of our core partners and they sit on our board. And you know, Leader-elect is very politically correct. I am a community organizer. I agitate like a washer. You know, you put some dirty clothes in that, and so washers agitate to make things clean, and that's how I am, and that's how I show up. I am unapologetically Black, and I show up unapologetically Black, and for my people, when I go into the Florida House each and every day, because if I did not, you know, it would be very bad. So let me tell you, I'm just gonna be real with you all. The budget that came out was a $117 billion budget, and let's be clear, this past legislative session was a missed opportunity for Floridians to get the things that they deserve. The reason it was a missed opportunity is because, let's be frank, I know we're in mixed company, but I am going to keep it real. We have a Republican-led legislature that cares more about their corporate donors and cares more about political ambition than actually addressing the needs and concerns of Floridians. The fact that we failed to address the affordability crisis as it relates to passing bills to help lower property insurance is a problem. Yet we gave them a $3 billion bailout a few years ago, and we asked them numerous times, we tried to file amendments to force them to ensure that consumers were gonna get some relief, and they didn't do it. But the guy that ran the bill came into the Florida House a thousandaire, and he's now leaving a millionaire because he works for the insurance industry. So that's what we're up against, right? And also, like I was saying, we just passed a $117 billion budget, and the Black communities, the Black caucus, which represents a lot of the majority, minority communities, particularly Black within the state, got less than 3% of the budget. I'm gonna repeat that. A $117 billion budget, and we only took home less than 3%. So I'm sorry, Angie is not going to go up there to be nice. Angie is going to go up there to demand what we deserve. And so, you know. And sometimes when you demand what you deserve, and when you don't show up and play the game in which they want you to show up and play it how they want to play it, they try to punish you. However, as Leader-elect stated, you know, we're still able to navigate and to get things done. I know that also this session, there were some extreme bills that came out, right? Very extreme. Child labor bills in which 16 and 17-year-olds, children, were going to be allowed to work unlimited hours overnight with no breaks. I acted up. I have a 16-year-old, right? And again, just knowing that I'm an organizer, we got the community, we got community groups involved, and we were able to make that bill less bad. It still passed. However, we made it so that they couldn't work. They had a curfew. They could only work from, I think it's 6:30 to 11. It's not unlimited hours. They now have to have a 30-minute break. And so we were able to make that bill less bad by agitating, by organizing, by demanding what we needed, right? And also, like, let's be clear, the sponsor of the bill stated that 16 and 17-year-old children were not children. She called them youth workers. So that's what they see our kids doing at a young age, becoming youth workers. And why are they becoming youth workers? Because last year they passed SB 1718, which was a bill in which they wanted to stop undocumented immigrants from coming here. And what did that cause? That caused the construction industry to slow down. That caused the agricultural industry to slow down. That caused the hospitality industry to slow down, and now you have all these jobs that they can't fill, and so they want to put our children to work. There was another bill that we had to make less bad by organizing and, you know, pushing back, which was going to allow 16 to 17-year-olds to work on roofs and scaffolding without breaks, again, and without, like, water, right? Like 16 to 17-year-olds to work on a roof and scaffolding. I have a 16-year-old who can't even wash the dishes correctly all the time. So what do I look like allowing my 16-year-old to have permission to work on a roof and scaffolding? And so I'm happy to say that through organizing, filing amendments, having hard conversations on the floor and behind the scenes, because they ain't gonna tell you, but they do have to sometimes talk to me behind the scenes, we were able to get that carved out. Those kids are still allowed to work at residential construction sites, but not commercial construction sites, and they're no longer allowed to get on roofs and things like that. And so I'm happy to say that we were able to, again, make that bill less bad. There was also, you know, I would like to say, as we all know, last year, we lost 3 individuals due to a white domestic terrorist coming into my district and shooting and killing them at the Dollar General, right? And so the conversations in which Senator Davis and some others were able to have behind the scenes, the pressure that I was able to put on the governor by calling him out, letting him know that he's hurting people, and the fact that the Stop Woke and the anti-DEI programs is just a racist dog whistle for anti-Black, right? And wanting to stop Black people from progressing, we were able to secure $20 million to harden HBCUs across the state, and EWU is getting, what, $5 million of that. And so super excited about that, yes. And so, like, you know, I want to talk about what we're up against is the majority party, again, as I stated, they're super politically ambitious. They changed the law last year to allow the governor to run for president and continue to be governor. And so we saw early on during the legislative session, he used that as his pulpit, basically. So he was passing really egregious bills. Like, their main priority bills were to stop pride flags from being hung on county buildings. Their main priorities were to put up Confederate monuments again if we decided to take them down. Their main priorities were to stop children from being able to use pronouns in school and teachers. Their main priorities were not to address the over 7,000 educator shortage that we have across the state. Their main priorities were not to address, again, the rising cost of property insurance, the rising cost of rent. Property insurance has gone up 102% in a year. We have seniors that are on fixed incomes that can't afford that. They're losing their homes. And yet we have a legislature that, again, is so concerned about the next place they're going in office than caring about the people. And so I consider myself an advocate, and I'm going up there and I'm raising the question, like, what are we here for? Why are you doing this? And we are filing amendments to, again, try to make these bills less bad. And this is why it's like, I'm an organizer, I'm gonna agitate. We are here, and that is great, but we have to go outside of these four walls, and we have to get back to what we used to do back in the day, back when we were all organized, when your organizations were organizing and doing things like Ella Baker and what Martin Luther King did and what Malcolm X did. Like, they knocked on doors, they made phone calls, they went into low-income communities and they had the uncomfortable conversations. We can't continue to do the status quo, or we're gonna continue to get the same things we've been getting. And I'll be real, there have been times where some of my colleagues that look just like me did not speak up because they thought they were gonna get money in the budget, and guess what? They ain't get no money in the budget. And so we have to
She's not talking about me.
we have to let our communities know that we are there fighting for them. We have to educate them about the fact that if the true enemy in all of this is these corporations, that if we would have closed corporate tax loopholes in the state of Florida, an amendment in which I ran last year, a bill in which Representative Ana V. Escamani ran last year. And so if we close those corporate tax loopholes, we could have, at a minimum, $250 million. But they don't do that. They're not doing it. Why? Because the corporations are paying for the politicians. They're bought and paid for. And so that's why it's important for us to go to Tallahassee and to make our voices heard, right? Not just during that one day at the Capitol, but starting during committee weeks, starting throughout legislative session, starting at delegation meetings, and also like starting immediately after, even before they get in office. They shouldn't come tell us what we should not be telling y'all what y'all need. Y'all should be demanding a black agenda. Let's be real. There should be a black agenda coming out of Tallahassee. This is the amount of money that we need. This is the type of infrastructure that we need within our communities, right? This is what we need to do better to build and uplift our communities. Like, to end generations after generation, like the wealth gap is getting bigger, right? The fact that we're passing bills that take a woman's bodily autonomy is a problem. Whether or not you believe in abortion, guess what? If abortion becomes totally illegal in our state, which is really what they want, there would be obstetrician gynecologists that leave. That is going to negatively impact black people. Black women die in childbirth 3 times more than white women. 3 times more than white women. We have to organize. We have to be involved, or we are going to continually see the attacks on black people, the anti-DEI attacks. what are they calling it now? Like, what? And then y'all just saw recently how they like attacking the mayor in Baltimore and what they're saying. College educated brother, they don't care. And what it's all about at the end of the day is power and control. We have a group of people, predominantly rich white men, who are afraid of losing power and control and who are afraid that we're going to do to them the same thing they've done to us, but we're not. Because when we lead with love, we lead with humanity, we lead with dignity, we lead with respect. And that's why it's important for us to come together, and that's why it's important for us to knock on doors and make phone calls. And when Monet is asking for volunteers and things like that, like we show up and we show out, and we are speaking truth to power 24/7. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Representative Nixon. Man, I don't know where to go after that. Do we have time for Q&A? Is Brother Morton back there? After that spirited discussion, we don't have any questions? Oh, okay. I didn't know we were taking questions from alphas.
So my question is, are there any organizations working with educating our high school seniors, that I don't see that many here, to register to vote? Because a lot of times we talk to the choir, but our high school seniors need to understand their power and their purpose in their vote. A lot of times they just go to college and don't know what all it impacts them. Are there any organizations working in high school to help our high school seniors to understand the purpose to register? Maybe there are, I'm not from here, but that's my passion, to let the students know, especially others like us, that there's power in their vote. Thank you.
First, let me tell you what the elections office, and that is one of our priorities, is to be in every high school, public, and if we can, even private. During the 10 years I was supervisor between 2005 and 15, we registered 68,000 young people during that period of time. Senator Davis was very instrumental as part of her education team of getting out there in every school and doing that. And we did it also by encouraging the schools. We created awards for the ones who registered the most. I will say some things have changed a little bit with the motor voter and people being able to register sometimes both online as well as when they get their driver's license. But I find still so important to get out there into the schools, because I'll find even seniors who will not have registered, but our role is definitely, although the way the state law reads is, it puts the requirement on each of the public institutions to have some period of time within the year to encourage a voter registration drive. We feel like we're the best instrument to come in. We come in sometimes with our own staff. We come in and also, if we need more, we bring poll workers. We have had other groups come in. We've had the NAACP, the different parties come in with us as we did voter drives, not to encourage anyone in any particular party, but just to be there and being able to assist the question, how do I do this? What do I have to do? What are the requirements? And also, what's so good, and this has been passed now for almost 20 years, is that people on the ages 16 and 17 can pre-register, which makes it awesome, because after they pre-register, if their address doesn't change, they'll get that voter card just as soon as they turn 18, and get into the process. So again, we step forward as one of the biggest groups really advocating and desiring to get back in that. We've already done voter registration drives since I came back in last year. We got in as many schools as we could prior to this election cycle starting, but we will do big time again as we get into next school year. But we encourage anyone who wants to help us in the process to reach out to us.
Thank you, Supervisor Holland. Did you want to say something,
Yeah, so
Representative
I
Nixon?
think it's also important to not just register our children, but also like to educate them about the importance of it. And I mean, I'm looking at all these beautiful black men and women here that, you know, I think that's in some of the pillars. And so it would be great if we could continue to do that, and you all could potentially work with Mr. Holland to push forth with that initiative.
Thank you. Supervisor Holland, I have another question for you. What is being done to assure the voters of Jacksonville and Duval County that on election day, the number of voting sites will not be decreased and voter confusion is kept to a minimum?
Right. I will tell you, first of all, a challenge I had, there was a lawsuit 2 days before I came into office, and it was under the Equal Protection Clause. And one of the problems was we have 14 city council districts, and there was an unequal number of precincts. We had some districts had as many as 19 and 18 precincts, and we had some as few as 9 and 10 precincts. So under equal protection, everyone didn't have an equal access to voting. Now, in a perfect world, we'd just take every city council district and go to 19 precincts. But unfortunately, finding a polling location and someone willing to allow us to be there for that 14 hours, the hour before we open and the hour after we open, is very difficult. So to settle the lawsuit, we had to come up with a happy median, which was we would also be no more than that median by 1 or no less than 1. So 11 is the median. So now there's not a city council district with more than 12 or less than 10, so everyone has an equal access. We will continue to look at, because as we get those council districts who have 10 to get to 11, then our 12s can go to 13, so that we again have an equal number. But it did end up reducing our polling locations from 186 to 160. And so part of the things we did is 2 things: expand that early voting, increase the number of sites. My goal is to have an early voting site within 4 miles of everybody in Duval County. And we hope to, before I leave, to be to that point, even if it means as many as 30 early voting sites. The polling locations, because, you know, and it was mentioned earlier, go to our website. If you're ever concerned, now you will get a sample ballot. Every voter should have got a voter information card in November. If you've lost that or want one, you just reach out to us at 255-VOTE. We'll send you a new one. But everyone should have got where your new polling location is. But the other side is when you get your sample ballot will always show where your voting precinct is on election day, as well as where all the early voting sites are. Now, if any of your polling locations are now no longer a polling location, during this election cycle through 2024, we will also have a poll worker position there. So just in case you didn't see, look at your sample ballot or didn't look up where you're going, and by habit you went to where you always went, but it's no longer a polling location, I will have workers there to direct you to where the new polling location is. So I want to continue expanding that, and often, and I work with the council members very closely on that, is to see where they can find locations. That's a difficult thing. And also, if you have a location and it's not, sometimes I had some input in this last election. They said, you were over here at this location and it has more parking and some bigger rooms. We're in a smaller location with less parking. Can we go back to that? So absolutely. We said if they're still available, we'll make those adjustments. So we always want to get you the best potential site. And if you ever feel like, hey, my church or my community, clubhouse, whatever, wants to be a polling location, reach out to us. We do compensate for the use of it. It's not a lot, but from a standpoint to take care of the expenses, we do that. But also, it's a way to really have your community reach out and come to your location. That's why so many of our churches, because of many issues that were on the ballot, a lot of churches said they didn't want to be polling locations anymore. But we still have a lot of churches that are polling locations. But we'll get people also saying, I don't want to go into church to vote. So it's hard to please everybody. But we try very hard. So give us your input. But that's our status now, polling locations and what we're doing. But we will continue to fight to get you more locations.
Go ahead.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to add about the question and confusion around polling sites. So there's a program called Election Protection and Voter Protection. We use the terms interchangeably. That's nonpartisan, where volunteers are trained, organizations anchor them, Florida Rising being one of them, on just how to help people navigate and locate their precinct locations if they're having an issue. Once they leave the precinct locations, oftentimes people go home. They decide not to vote. They're on a time crunch. It's their lunch break. They're frustrated. So we may see a voter that looks maybe a little disgruntled and say, hey, is there anything we can help you with? Or they may come to us because we're normally wearing a shirt that says Voter Protector. We're giving them either a device or how to use their device to find their precinct location. We have handouts on types of identification they may need, how to contact the supervisor of elections office, and if we're hearing like serious problems, we help escalate it. So they may not feel comfortable calling the SOE. We'll call for them. We're documenting these instances and seeing which precincts may have continuous problems, so we're able to address that in a conversation with the SOEs later. We also have attorneys who are on site, either at the precinct locations or via phone, who are also documenting and seeing if legal action or if they need to intervene if there's a reason why a vote is not being cast, or if there's a problem at a precinct that's not being resolved. We've had instances where machine may have been down, not necessarily in Duval County, but it does. But you know, things happen, and you know, you have a time period where we expect it to be resolved. When it's not, what are the next steps? So we don't leave that in the hands of voters, because that can be very frustrating. So we have this program, and we're always looking for volunteers to be trained, to be stationed at these locations. I'm there sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning before precincts open, all the way late until the evening on election day and during early voting times as well. So that's another opportunity to get engaged and for people to get some nonpartisan information on how to vote.
And I'll just add this, and Jerry, I'll do this for you, Jerry. So looking out in this audience, when you're talking about precincts, the other side of this is organizing to be able to handle a precinct. So I'm looking at it, and that had a little bit to do with why I asked Divine Nine to stand up in the beginning. You all, I'm looking at these groups around, the organizations, our fraternity here that's put this on. You all can be trained to actually handle a precinct yourselves, and it could be dollars and cents that's given back to your organization, or it's dollars and cents that you can donate to somewhere else. So think about that. You can be on both sides of this, and we always need Jerry, supervisor, always need people to go in other areas where they don't necessarily live to make sure that we're balanced when it comes to political parties. So just think about that as a fundraiser and another way to get involved. Representative Nixon started on it, but I just want to say this, and I'm going to finish. Divine Nine, we have to do more than what we're doing.
Thank you. Next question. As transplants, I read a statistic a few weeks ago that said 17 people were moving to Jacksonville every day. So having said that, the question is, as transplants move to the city, what are the first things that they can do to become integrated in solutions that positively impact legislation? So basically they're asking, how can they get involved?
They can join Monet and my organizations, Florida for All or Florida Rising. So floridaforall.vote. You should take out your phones right now. Go to floridaforall.vote, sign up. We're actually having a deeper discussion next week in regards to legislative session. We're also going to have Andrew Pantazzi, who's going to talk about the new redistricting ruling that just came out on yesterday. We actually had a Black Messenger training that would have been great for you all to be on tonight, but you're here. And so we do those weekly to give you all like the talking points and to be able to combat the disinformation, because there's a lot of that out there. And it's not just misinformation, there's actual disinformation that's being spread to get us to get us confused and to get us to think that certain things aren't like working and all kinds of stuff. So we actively have ongoing meetings for Black people to educate them on that. And then we also have a program called the Path to Power, in which we could come into your organization and schedule workshops that lead you to understand about the different ideologies and how we are actually oppressed right now, even if we're making over six figures, because again, as I stated earlier, a black woman is still, in this day and age, 3 times more likely to die giving childbirth, right? The wealth gap is still really bad and huge as it relates to black people. And so we talk about that, we get into that, and we get folks active and engaged. And we also like help train people to get elected. So like I was, fun fact, I was the first organizer here for then Florida New Majority, which morphed into New Florida Majority, which merged into Florida Rising, which is the organization that Monet now works for. And so I was able to learn about organizing and learn how to run campaigns and able to take out an incumbent that thanked God for slavery. And so, yeah, we're here.
Yeah, so ditto to what Angie said about Florida for All and those opportunities for training. If you go to floridarising.org, we have monthly People's Assemblies at our office on Davis Street. Some of our members or folks who have attended our People's Assembly are here today, so I appreciate y'all. We do have opportunities to take folks to Tallahassee during legislative session for our advocacy days. Our dues-paying members is $25 a year to be a dues-paying member. You go all costs paid to Tallahassee. We go during committee weeks, as Rep. Nixon was talking about, before the action really gets going. We also train and mobilize folks down to city council. We have been plaintiffs on winning litigation. We were one of the plaintiffs who won redistricting here in the city of Jacksonville, and an additional district, District 14. He's gone. Councilman Robin Johnson is now gone, but those are opportunities that you have to engage with us. We train, we mobilize, we activate, we travel, and we do all the things. So floridarising.org if you want to get involved, and you can come to our meetings without being a member, but I know eventually you will be, so.
Right.
A couple things, as we were mentioning about poll workers and adopting a precinct. One is, if you noticed in the table coming in, there should have been calendars. You see this, voter guides to show all your elected officials, and also a pamphlet, being a poll worker, and really reaching out to me if you want to adopt a precinct. On our website at duvalelections.gov is my cell phone number. Many of you have it. It's 904-318-6877. I give out my cell phone number. You can call me anytime, text me anytime. These ladies have it. They do. And so, but go to my website. It's there on the front page. You can always reach out to me on any of those questions on how to get involved to be a poll worker. Number again is 904-318-6877. You're welcome.
And let's not forget the NAACP. I think they've been a partner here tonight, so you can always join that group. I'm sure James Morton, before we leave, will give numbers and the email address to that. But do not forget about joining the NAACP. Both ladies, Rep. Nixon and Monet Holder, have described what happens with the NAACP as well as far as training and education. And so it helps you get your foot in the door to be able to help candidates, help messages, help the Black community as a whole with getting the word out. We have to get back to what we used to do to be successful. And that's knocking on doors and making the phone calls. We've got to do the work. So again, don't forget the NAACP.
All right, here's a sticky one. Would any of you like to comment on the recent decision regarding congressional redistricting? And I guess the fact that we don't have a federal representative in Jacksonville.
I will. I led a peaceful protest on the House floor to raise awareness about it. So yeah, it's a huge slap in the face, right? And so I'm still happy that we have the opportunity to potentially win the state case. And y'all are plaintiffs on that, right, Monet?
Yeah, we were plaintiffs on it and tried to move forward with an appeal. Then we're still in the legal process around it.
Right. And so it's going to be kicked up to the Supreme Court, and if they do what's right, we will get our seat back. But again, those seats are appointed by the governor. And this is again why everything is so important. Like the governor gets the opportunity to appoint judges across the state as well as, the Supreme Court. And so that's why it's super important for us to go out and vote and to get involved and hold them accountable year round. And so happy that organizations like Florida Rising are leaning into that. But again, it's really important for us to continue to tell people how things are connected, and the fact that everything we do is related to who's in office, whether we have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, i.e. Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, right? Whether we have an educator shortage, as I stated, we have an over 7,000 educator shortage here in the state of Florida, and yet we're more concerned with rainbow flags on county buildings. And so that is going to negatively impact us. But yeah, there's still hope as it relates to that court case. It's on the state level. We will probably not challenge it on the federal level anymore because we don't want to set a negative precedent. We don't have the right court right now on the federal level as far as the U.S. Supreme Court. So we're just looking at what transpires in the fair districting in the state courts right now.
Excuse me. I got a question from the audience.
Sure. To the panelists, probably the legislators, got this question from a Raines High School teacher. Is it possible that you can offer professional development training or funding for professional development training for teachers so that teachers can promote and educate students on the importance of voting?
I guess the panel's looking at me since I'm a former special education teacher. We do put pots of money there. So people look at us and say, legislators, why are you not giving us a raise? We have 67 school districts in this state, and so our job is to complete a balanced budget. So we put millions, it's been millions of dollars, probably billions, to do our base student allocation, to give money for professional development. It's a various group of pots of money that we give. So we as legislators do not give raises. We give the 67 school districts the money to give raises. What we're not doing is giving enough money for raises. You understand what I'm saying? So the governor said he wanted everyone at 47.5, and we've gotten there, but your veteran teachers are still left out of that, because as we raise that primary initial pay to 47.5, we're not allotting or giving enough money to give the veteran teachers the raise they need. But we are giving, to answer the question, we are giving money to professional development. It's just what the school districts do with it.
And so I want to speak to that because we shouldn't want the school district to just be the only ones that do it, right? We have currently the legislature, the governor issuing directives, the anti-DEI directives to the director of the commissioner of the Board of Education. And so we don't want to teach their curriculum because their curriculum is wrong, it's inaccurate, and it's going to leave our children behind. So it would be great if organizations, we have, so one of our partners is Faith in Florida. They have a curriculum as a and then also Florida Rising and Florida for All. We have curriculums to teach our children, and I know we would love for you all to get paid to do it and to do the right thing, but they don't want our kids to learn. Let's be real. But they're passing bills in which we're teaching our kindergarten students about communism and the effects of communism. But, they're calling people like me a communist because I'm pushing back, right? That sounds like McCarthyism to me. And, that happen, right? And so it's going to be incumbent upon us to go outside the four walls of school and like teach our children in the communities. Shameless plug, there is a new bookstore coming to town on the north side called Cafe Resistance, and we would love for you all to come and to teach our children there. It is 5007 Sutel Drive, and we would love for you all, again, to come to help educate our children so that we can actually take back our state.
Supervisor Holland, Edward Waters University recently received its early voting location back for the 2024 election. What should we as a community be doing in our community to make sure that location remains a viable location after this election?
The most important thing is go vote there and use it. You know, because the pressure becomes when, and even, you know, council members look at, you know, well, why are you at this location? Nobody votes there. You know, and it makes it hard to justify if there's another area of town that, you know, has a higher number, or maybe they say more people early vote in that particular part of town. So I'm committed to having it there throughout my 4 years that I'll be supervisor of elections. But for future generations, it's about participation in these early voting sites. It's about going there, using them, and that way we can say, hey, we definitely want to keep that. Look how many people come and vote there. Because back to that goal again, trying to get people to vote before Election Day. Takes the pressure off of the polls on Election Day. So biggest encouragement is please go use that facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? That's my favorite poll worker. That's my poll worker.
Good evening. Thank you guys for coming out. Oh, okay. Oh, is that better? Okay. My question is, my passion is that, as I know that there's very few of us in the legislative process in Tallahassee and around the country. And my question to you is, what would you recommend and suggest that we could do to get our young kids more interested and involved in the political process? Because from what I see, there's very few of our young kids that even know what the process is, okay? And if they don't know what the process is, they're not going to get involved. And the other part of that is, could we, in fact, create a program? We have a program called the Lamplighters Program in Omega, and it's a mentoring program for our young black kids. Could we create a program similar to that, and for lack of a better word, I'll call it the young legislators, and get our young kids in the community to be a part of that program, give them incentives to be a part of that program, and teach them the importance of being involved in the legislative process, because they need to be there because other people are creating and developing what their lives are going to be, and we don't even have a say in it. And you guys know better than we know because you sit there and experience it every day. How can we get our young kids interested and more involved in becoming a part of the political process and a candidate to be a part of this legislative agenda to make a difference for us?
I'll start it off. It sounds like to me you're halfway there. I don't know what you do with your lamplighters and what that curriculum is, but I will talk to you about what was done in the elections office when I was there. And you're talking about bringing young people in. We have to go get them. That's number one. Number two, I can't talk to a high schooler like another high schooler can talk to a high schooler. That's number two. But when you go get them and bring them in, they do begin to develop a sense of wanting to know, that energy of learning from their peers, and then it's not so much, I'm here and I'm embarrassed to be here. They want to do things, we just got to go get them. The issue is a lot of times at, what am I, 30? I don't, just go with it. Just go with it. 30 years old, I can't talk to, an 18-year-old. So keep that in mind. So I tell this story to say, when I was with the elections office, we did something called Teen Election Awareness Movement. And they were our voices, and we went to get them. We sent a letter to the high school. We didn't ask for an age. We didn't ask for a grade point average. We said we just want a student that's interested in what this is, elections, history, understanding voting. And we literally ended up with the cream of the crop from almost every school in Duval County. One of our students was a young lady who scored the highest on the SAT. We didn't ask for that, but that's the person that the school gave us to represent. They helped us with commercials. They helped us with messaging to younger people. They created their own messages. They participated in things, and they began to relate. They were able to relate to each other, to go back, because they were our ambassadors, go back to their schools and tell what we were doing. So they helped us educate other high schoolers as to the importance of voting, as to what they were doing, as to the curriculum we were trying to put them through and make it interesting for them as well. So they were our ambassadors, they shared, and that's how we were able to probably deal with 15, 20 students. And they were great, but the cream of the crop.
So I would say we can start something like that. However, you already have the children there. And so our organizations can come in and work to establish workshops, ongoing workshops or cohorts to plug your students in. That's the easiest way to go. We have to start meeting people where they are, because you can have events and throw this all day. They're not coming if they don't know you. You gotta go to them, right? And let them know that you're interested. And I think that'll be the easiest way, right? And then we also have, in our workshops, we teach your children how to organize. So they will learn about politics and all the things and path to power, but they'll also learn how to go get their peers, right? And so we are willing to do that. We can develop curriculum that way. We've done it for the NAACP at their convention with their youth council. We do it all across the state. And we have an organization that is on our board that is one of our core partners called the Dream Defenders. The Dream Defenders were founded because they were Bethune-Cookman students and FAMU students that were upset that George Zimmerman did not get arrested after killing Trayvon Martin. So they started at BCU, they met up at BCU, and they marched all the way to Sanford and sat outside the sheriff's office until they arrested George Zimmerman. They want to start a chapter here, and they're trying to figure it out. And so, it would be possibly a great partnership to have the Lamplighters, and the different organizations that have youth groups to potentially funnel into them. And they would be great at leading a workshop to just, instill that little nugget and agitate the kids to want to form a chapter. And so we're willing to do that for you all.
I think one thing I'll add too is I think those are longer term opportunities for them to really get trained. But if you just want a taste of what the legislative process or political process is, there's also the page and messenger programs up in Tallahassee that I think y'all know a senator and a state rep who can help get your children into that program. I know I'm the legislative chair for the Jacksonville chapter of Jack and Jill. When we take our teens up to Tallahassee, they get an excused absence for going to Jack and Jill Day at the Capitol. So you can either come with Florida Rising and our advocacy days, bring your children. There's no limit to the amount that can come, and they can spend those days in Tallahassee, learn the process, meet legislators, sit in the gallery, watch how votes are happening, and be excused from school. And I believe there is a internship or similar to the Page and Messenger program for city council, because I know a few students who are part of that as well. So talk to some of the local elected leaders to figure out how you can plug your kids into those programs.
I know even the time I served on the city council is, and I know council members still do this today, is if you ever want to bring a class in and they'll do a mock city council meeting for them and let them propose legislation and, you know, have one be the chair or the president of the council. It's amazing, you know, how influential that is to students when they sit up there on that dais or when they view the Capitol, when you go through how impressive. And I think that sets that spark in a young person to say, you know, one day as an adult, I want to sit up here. One day I want to sit in the rep seat or the senator's seat. You know, I want to sit and I want to be council president one day. It's setting those sparks that I think really helps a lot, and engaging young people in those activities, I think, is a perfect way.
Thank you. At this time, I want to bring a friend to the stage. Most of you already know who he is. I don't think he needs an introduction, but he currently serves as the Vice Bossless of the Theta Phi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Octavius Holliday.
Good evening, everyone. I will not belabor the hour. Would like to say again thank you to the panelists for accepting the invitation to be here. I, for one, have been educated on so many things. I thought I knew everything, but you all have been exceptional this evening, so thank you. Also, I do want to acknowledge my bosses again, Jason Hardwick. We do have Brother Randy Johnson, perhaps still in the audience, who is our Omega Psi Phi statewide VREM, as we call it, Voter Registration and Mobilization Chair. Also want to honor the pastors of this house, also both the mega men as well as the son, I guess, Bishop Senior and Bishop Junior. I do want to also make sure that we mention, even though this started out as a joint project for the NAACP and Omega Psi Phi, we have some very fine folks right here, the Bethel Political Action Ministry. If y'all can wave to everybody. And acknowledge those good folks. So just want to let you all know this is just a beginning. We were given a mandate by our Grand Bossless to engage the community more. I do believe my spirit was pricked when you all mentioned, I think Senator Davis was mentioning that the D9 need to do more. We need to do more together. So we encourage that to happen. And one of the last comments about our youth groups getting together, I don't think that has happened yet. The D9, each one of us have mandates to help the community, and we can have all of our youth groups at some summit at some point. We have the best and the brightest in Jacksonville under our tutelage and our leadership. That would be an awesome opportunity as well. So with that, thank you all for coming out. I believe Brother Brown has a few last statements. Where is he? over here. But again, thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance and hope you learned something. Honestly, we're preaching to the choir with you all. We are doing this to spark an interest, spark some kind of give you some knowledge that you can take out to others and share with others. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Holliday. Ladies and gentlemen, as our empowering event draws to a close, I wish to extend my sincerest gratitude to each and every one of you for your invaluable contributions. Firstly, I would like to express heartfelt thanks to the Bethel family and Bishop Rudolph McKissick Jr. for graciously opening the doors of their facilities to host this transformative gathering. Your generosity and support have provided us with a remarkable platform to unite, inspire, and affect positive change within our community. I also would like to extend a special thank you to the dedicated staff and amazing members who work tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of this event. Your commitment, hard work, and enthusiasm have been instrumental in making tonight's event a resounding success. Additionally, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to the Political Action Ministry for their unwavering dedication and tireless efforts in organizing and coordinating this event. Your passion for advocacy and social change is truly inspiring, and it has been an honor to work alongside such dedicated individuals. In closing, I am filled with gratitude for the opportunity to come together as a community and reaffirm our shared commitment to unity, empowerment, and progress. Let us carry the spirit of tonight's event forward as we continue to work together toward building a brighter future for all. Thank you once again to everyone who has played a part in making this event possible. Your contributions have made a lasting effect, and I look forward to continuing this journey of positive change together. I want to thank the panelists for spending your time with us the last hour and a half. This was certainly invaluable. Yes, give them a hand. I hope this is the first of many of these forums. And with that, everyone have a good night and drive safe.
And before you all leave, there is a table that's out front because some of us have to run again. So if you're a Jacksonville resident, please stop by that table out there and complete that form for Senator Tracy Davis. Thank you.